Within the show proper, Friendship is Magic made the somewhat unique decision to begin every episode of the show with a narrative technique known as a cold open, a usually small scene that occurs before the theme song to get viewers interested in the upcoming episode. On paper, and especially around the time of its inception, it seemed kind of counterintuitive, but it's become much more ubiquitous since its early uses in the 1960s. I'd show you an example, but I don't have a theme song, and it's not like my country has a 50-year-old sketch comedy series with regular cold opens that I can riff off of here. I mean, it's just not something...
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
Get out of here, you two!
I wish I could tell you that the cold open is some artistic shift in the structure of modern television, but the cold open was originally created as a way to keep viewers from changing the channel during the opening credits. It makes sense from the perspective of a network trying to sell ad space, even more so when the program itself exists as a vehicle to sell toys to its target demographic. In more serialized shows, those with an evolving story, you sometimes use this space to recap the information relevant to the story you're about to watch. I saw this a lot growing up in old drama series, police procedurals, and way more Survivor than I care to admit. Friendship is Magic did this a little with its two-part episodes, but cold opens were usually just reserved for slice-of-life shenanigans. A good cold open usually serves one or more of the following purposes. First and foremost, it serves as an appetizer for the rest of the episode. It still does its job in getting me in the mood to watch the rest of this horse show, but they make no mistake about these being anything but cute little slice-of-life scenes. During the couple years I had to sneak out past my bedtime to watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force, I remember the opening Dr. Weird segments just as fondly as I did the actual show, because it primed me for the brand of absurdist humor the show was known for, despite my not knowing why they were shown together or what made them different from the core show.
It's not different at all! Is it, Steve?
My Little Pony does these compartmentalized opening scenes more often than you'd think. Before she meets Cranky Doodle Donkey, Pinkie Pie has an entire 80s Lapper-size montage before she leaves her house in the morning. The Cutie Pox opens with 2 wholesome minutes of the Crusaders trying to earn their cutie marks in bowling, and Sonic Rainboom opens with a short little cheer school prep scene that impacted next to nothing, but arguably went down as one of the more memorable and meme-worthy moments in the show's history.
Yay! Ugh.
Sometimes it's just a little bonus scene with some of the episode's leftover characters, in case, for example, Fluttershy doesn't appear during the bulk of Dragon Quest, so you decide to open with a goofy little altercation to explain why one of the girls is just gone. These happen more often with map episodes, where a character will get called to solve a friendship problem, interrupting the far less important thing they were already doing, like hosting your animal book club or making Marjolaine with your pet alligator. A lot of times these opening scenes are almost like pre-packaged bumpers or short films. Read It and Weep opens with this clever perspective shot of the girls watching Rainbow Dash almost crush her spine. Philly Vanilli opens with what is basically a self-contained cottagecore music video, and Common Ground's opening exists so that Scott Underwood, voice of the announcer, can indulge himself in this transatlantic newsreel impression.
Highlights in the world of sports. Buckball fever has swept Equestria.
The cold open can also act as a signpost for the rest of the episode to give the viewer a heads up about what they're about to get into. The most broad way is by signaling the tone of the episode. Discord's premiere episode fades into the theme song with this menacing mixed down chuckle, so you know there's danger afoot. Sparkle 7, on the other hand, elaborates on a super serious chores contest between Twilight and her BBBFF, where whoever wins gets permanent custody of a supremely important tinfoil crown. You see there's a difference there. Sparkle 7 also lets the audience know what they're going to be watching for the remaining 20 minutes or so. Sometimes a little clumsily, but most episodes know to get the premise out of the way so that the audience at home can follow along.
The first day of spring is tomorrow, so every pony in Ponyville needs to clean up winter. But I'm going to need some pony fabulous to model for me. You're sure to knock every pony's head off at the Equestria Rodeo competition. This is sure to be the winning entry of this year's National Dessert Competition.
I just keep thinking about how much fun you're gonna have at the Daring Do convention.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy do you think Thorax is going to be about our surprise visit?
If you happen to have turned on a special episode, the cold open will let you know that too, from the chill in the air of a Halloween episode to the wintry mix of Christmas episodes like Hearthwarming Eve and Tale. It also, unfortunately, lets you know when you're about to watch episodes that, for better or worse, have a bit of a reputation to them. They both deserve their own videos, but when you meet Dash at the start of 28 Pranks Later, or Spike at the top of Just for Sidekicks, it's hard not to channel your inner Peter Griffin.
Here's the clicker. No one would blame you.
The biggest utility, though, has got to be the mic drop. Those moments when the show drops a big piece of information and then dips right into the theme song to give you time to process some big piece of news. This is my personal favorite, and it's responsible for my all-time favorite cold open by a wide margin. 2018 season of Wie is de Mol, the Dutch version of The Mole that airs in the Netherlands, opened by splitting the contestants into 5 pairs and letting them wander around a city trying to find each other for 15 minutes of airtime, before 2 of them discover that they're not even in the same country. The look that Ron gives Luce as the show dips into the theme song is amazing, because when a show does this, it's usually because they know they just dropped something huge and want to give you time to process. MLP is really good at these, and they do them pretty regularly. In roughly ascending order of hype, the ones that stick out to me include Scootaloo finally running into Rainbow Dash's parents in Season 7, Big Mac planning on proposing to Sugar Belle in Season 9, Pinkie Pie casually dropping in on Applejack to let them know they're related, Chrysalis casually appearing at the beginning of a low-key camping episode, Twilight finding out her brother is getting married, Rainbow Dash finally becoming a Wonderbolt, Celestia and Luna suddenly deciding to step down, and the Rarity jump scare at the start of Magical Mystery Cure, if only because I love body swaps so much I could do an entire episode on them. There's a couple other ways to drum up interest, though. Because most episodes do a sort of narrative reset when they come back from the theme song, they can try some more interesting things with their intros. In medias res is the word for a storytelling technique where you drop the viewer into a story with something already going on. When it's not being used as a crutch to excuse poor pacing, it's effective at throwing the viewer off guard at the top of the episode before adding context to what you're seeing. It's also a good choice for dream sequences. Dreams are often confusing and nonsensical, which is why we're thrown off by the main 6 whipping out their Saiyan forms in the first 30 seconds of Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep? We don't know how we got here, but that's dream logic for you. Just your brain firing off neurological improv scenarios, like being intercepted by a flying pet chimera. It also lets you get away with things that normally wouldn't gel with the tone of the show, like a sick 3-point superhero landing.
Congratulations, Silverstream! You're officially the first non-Pegasus Wonderbolt!
If you want to get even more granular, there are a few subtle things you can do to modify audience expectations. What you're watching right now is the earliest cold open to make use of an editing technique called Smash to Black, which cuts the scene off like a guillotine instead of fading to the opening theme song. It's a good way to add urgency to a scene, like when Twi finds out her brother is getting married.
My brother?
Just about 1 in every 6 episodes smashes to black, but it's not a technique they started regularly using in their intros until the second half of the series. Here's one of my favorites, when Luna realizes that the Tanibus may have just escaped into the real world.
My dream ended happily? That cannot happen!
Just as an experiment, here's the same scene again with a fade to black instead of a smash cut.
My dream ended happily? That cannot happen!
There's a little dip in intensity there whenever the episode decides to fade to black instead of using the smash cut. It's subtle, but when you've been editing for a decade like I have and just finished a 3-hour horse ranking video, it's the little things you tend to notice. You can even extend or contract the length of the cold open itself. The longest intro by a pretty significant margin goes to the 3-minute opening of It Isn't the Main Thing About You, which follows Rarity around town to observe just how much her natural radiance lends itself to getting ahead in life. It's a little bloated, but I think it still works. The shortest intro runs a brisk 31 seconds of a guard giving a vague warning to Princess Celestia in the Season 3 opener. Overall, a good 70% of episodes fall in that comfortable 1 to 2 minute range, but that length can fluctuate a bit based on the amount of setup an episode needs. Season by season, there's too much noise going on to determine an overall trend, but the final 3 seasons have the longest average opening length by a noticeable amount. If for some reason you're looking to start an episode off on the wrong foot, there's not a lot you can do to gum up your momentum better than just talking. Television is a visual medium, and it's relatively easy to provide enough context clues within the scene the viewer has been dropped into that the script can get the point across with minimal dialogue. Nothing quite takes the wind out of my sails like fading in on a medium shot of 2 characters talking to each other about what they're already doing while nothing interesting happens. To Change a Changeling is the first example that comes to mind, but it's far from the only offender. Flutterbrudder gets stuck in this Pavlovian as you know loop, where each character talks about their hobbies like the lunch guests aren't already aware of each other's interests. A Trivial Pursuit is arguably worse because the information there is delivered in literal question-answer format, sometimes with the characters talking to themselves. For a while, I thought the absolute worst offender of this was the Season 8 opener School Days, which made the decision that the characters were going to open a school inside the 90-second mark. But I think that with some reworking, you could rewrite the first part of that episode in a way that eliminates some of the roughness. Also, it's not really the worst offender because I've been playing the intro to Non-Compete clause in the background of this section, and they're still talking. A few more openings have this weird mismatch going on where the energy of the opening clashes with the rest of the episode. Horseplay is a mean-spirited episode about whether to tell Celestia that she's a horrible actress, but it opens with this really soft, wistful discussion about the transcendent power of community theater that doesn't really set the viewer on the right path. In the same way, No Second Prances devolves pretty quickly into a petty soap opera, even though the table-setting opening is one of the funniest scenes in the series. Though that doesn't seem entirely fair, since I only saw that opening after Storm's hysterical edit based on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Just because an episode opens strong doesn't mean it's a keeper. A Friend Indeed opens with a fun training montage. Some Pony to Watch Over Me has this charming no babysitter necessary council decision, and Three's a Crowd, despite being a bottom 2 bad episode, has one of my favorite openings. Let's talk about this, because along with Party of One, Mystery on the Friendship Express, and The Fault in Our Cutie Marks, the opening of Three's a Crowd is almost a textbook example of how to structure an effective cold open. Spike brings home the mail. Twilight's really excited about a letter she's expecting, so we're naturally excited as well. Turns out Cadence has blocked out some time to hang out with her sister-in-law, which lets us know that this is likely the main story we're going to be following. Then Fluttershy arrives and shares her amazing news that she got the green light to observe the Breezies in their natural habitat. This may seem inconsequential at first, but it sets up her absence in the episode, which leads to an unsupervised discord providing the episode's primary conflict. We complete the hat trick when Pinky busts in to yell about a flyer she got in the mail about used patio furniture, which isn't important but finishes the scene with a fun little bow. These 3 beats are set up in this perfect rule of threes scenario, and it's really satisfying in an otherwise grating episode to open with that kind of setup reminder unrelated payoff. Thanks a lot for watching. This one was a special episode for myself as an editor first and foremost, but most of the episodes I have planned for 2024 will be at least partially chosen by viewers. I ran a poll over on my community tab that decided most people wanted to hear about pony parents in February, so stay tuned. Until next time, I'm some horse on the internet. Thanks for watching.